Hi. Hello and welcome back to the DeadBall podcast. It's been a while. There are reasons for that, mainly university stuff, dealing with that, applications, results day, etc. They also went on holiday to Italy. That's another reason. And I just wanted a break because nothing was really going on Villa-wise, essentially. However, I'm back now looking to have more of the better upload schedule than I have done. I know it hasn't been great. I think 5 videos spread over about 4 months. But I'm hoping to have better uploads now that we're close to the season and there's actually stuff to talk about. So a bit of background on this podcast and kind of collaboration. So the Villa Vision put up on Twitter how he's looking to do a podcast. I have this podcast running. I said to DM him, and it kind of went from there. So we've organised this and now are doing this podcast, which will be about an hour-ish. We don't really set a time as we want it to be as good a conversation as possible. And we will be covering the new kit for Villa, any possible transfers, pre-season, and how that benefits Villa as a squad. The new coaching and backroom staff, so the arrivals of Craig Shakespeare and Johan Lange, mostly. Whether Grealish and Louise will both sign new contracts, who our key players will be next season, our improving youth academy and how good our under-23 team is, and the big breaking news of the last 24 hours, Jack Grealish not in the England squad. We will go into depth on that, I am sure. And now please welcome my guest. Hello, mate, you all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a mental few days with the Grealish stuff, hasn't it?
A few months actually as well. Actually, with COVID. Especially with Jack being left out. I mean, like you said, that was brought up last, but like I say, that if we would have known about that before the schedule went out, I think that would have been at the top, underlined and in bold.
Yeah. Making marks.
Yeah.
I think. Do you want to go through that first? Is the breaking news story?
Yeah, we can do if you want. I mean,
yeah.
What were your thoughts on when it come out yesterday at 2:00?
I think we were all kind of I was kind of refreshing Twitter for about 5 minutes whilst it was going on, looking at everyone's tweet.
You're watching the meltdown on Twitter.
I put a tweet out myself that done pretty well. Basically, the tweet that I put out, if people haven't seen it, they probably have. It was comparing Jack Grealish to Mason Mount. Jack Grealish has created the 4th most amount of chances in Europe, more than Lionel Messi. Mason Mount isn't even in the top 50. Mason Mount in the England squad because he's Gareth Southgate's favourite. Jack isn't. That's the tweet I put out. Did pretty well.
It's hard to argue. It's hard to argue with that. I mean, it's back and nail on the head, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
When I'm sat looking at the squad now, and you look at that midfield compared to what we could have. I mean, Mason Mount, he is a good player. He's going to develop into a good player, I think. But
the thing with Mason Mount for me is he's a good player. He will be a great player in the next 5 years. He isn't a great player now.
No, I don't. I think he's one of those that would develop later on into his career as he's more experienced. And I mean, I think Jack was forced into being more mature and being more experienced when we went down, and he was given the mantelpiece of everyone just looking to him. And I mean, to the point where, I mean, he even carried us on his own back in that 10-game run where we won every game in the championship. And I think that forced him to mature. And not saying that Mason Mount hasn't had to go through the sort of difficulties. He obviously went out on loan to Derby, but I think Jack's a more complete player, and I think he would add a lot more to that side, especially with better play. I mean, the stats speak for themselves, and I mean, if he played for England, he'd have much better players around him.
Yeah. Do you know, I'm going to say this about Mason Mount. He hasn't had a difficult season. He's been loaned out to Vitesse, I believe, in
Right.
Holland. The Dutch league, other than about 4 teams who are decent, isn't that great.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's in the Vitesse team with other Chelsea loanies who he knew.
Yeah.
The Dutch standard, the Dutch league at the bottom end. At the top end, there's some good teams, Ajax, PSV, etc.
Yeah.
But at
Yeah.
the bottom end, it's not great.
No, not at all. You
Vitesse
couldn't
had,
name them.
yeah, Vitesse had a pretty decent season. When I looked at it when he was there,
Right.
he's then loaned out to Derby. They finished top 6. Chelsea this season finished top 4. I want Mason Mount being a struggling team, have a difficult season, and see how he deals with it. Because so
Yeah.
far it's been all sunshine and rainbows for him.
Yeah.
in his
Yeah. And
career.
he's everything's been homely. I mean, even when he went to Derby, the manager was Lampard, and he brought
Yeah.
along Tomori, and I think there was another. I think there was a trio of them, wasn't there, that went there. So I mean,
I'm
and
not
then
sure. It might have been.
but yeah, I mean, the reason it sounds like we're going a bit on Mason Mount, but I think it's that he's the most directly comparable to him, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Harry, I think you'd say, I mean, if you're looking at him now, I mean, you'd have probably Calvin Phillips,
Yeah.
Declan Rice, James Ward-Pratt. I mean, well, James Ward-Pratt's probably box to box, but more
Eric
Harry
Dyer.
Winks, Rice. Yeah, I mean, they're all holding midfielders. I mean, we're just stacked with holding midfielders.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we were stuck with. I mean, you can't really know. He's said that Southgate's obviously said that it's about Mason Greenwood, and that's why he's not got in. But
That's rubbish.
yeah,
That's
it's nonsense because I mean, even though Jack does play, when it's written down on a piece of paper, or if someone laid out our team on a piece of paper, it would be Jack
yeah.
on the wing, but he doesn't ever play there. He drifts inside. He didn't stick outside on the wing. He just drifts over there to get space, and then he always comes inside and dictates the game from there.
Yeah.
I think it's absolute nonsense that he's left him out, and the fact that Calvin Phillips has been brought in without any experience at all in the Premier League is just farcical.
Yeah.
I can't believe that he's done it.
I have 2 main things I want to say on the subject.
Yeah.
Number one, how unbalanced the squad is. So you
Totally
have
agree.
no left backs in the squad. That's a first.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean that. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually looking at you now. You've got three right backs.
yeah, and no left backs.
No, and I mean fourth right back.
Absolutely
If you can,
fast.
if Joe Gomez is a fourth right back.
Yeah. Bukayo Saka. This is. I'm not just saying this just because it's Grealish. The squad is an absolute joke.
Yeah.
Bukayo Saka, 12 assists for Arsenal this season. Nowhere near the squad. Dwight McNeil, been very good for Burnley. Doesn't even make the under-21 squad. Bellingham, only played in the Championship competitively. Gets into the under-21 squad at 17 ahead of Dwight McNeil. He's been playing week in, week out in the Premier League. That in itself is a joke.
Just shows what team you play for, isn't it? I mean, it's really. I find it sort of. I mean, I didn't hear about the Dwight McNeil, but
yeah,
he's a huge talent. He's a huge talent, and like I say, if he won't end up staying at Burnley, Burnley are going to get a nice amount of money for him one day. Where he'll go, I'm not sure, but he's another one that you could end up abroad because people seem to undervalue sort of players like that, workmen like players like that who don't necessarily catch the eye.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree.
I want to keep this kind of on Villa, but I'll just make one point about McNeil. I can see him going to Atletico Madrid. I can see him being perfect for Simeone style on that left mid.
Oh yeah, he's got a great delivery, hasn't he, as well? And they've always got a big number 9 up front, like Diego Costa is now.
They're basically a fancy Burnley, aren't they? Atletico Madrid.
Yeah. They're like a Burnley on steroids.
Yeah.
We just inject him with money.
Yeah. I don't understand the centre backs he's chosen. Can you tell me the centre backs in the squad, please?
Yeah. So the centre backs, we're classing obviously Eric Dyer as a centre back. So it's Eric Dyer, Joe Gomez, Michael Keane, Michael Keane, I'd have to double take every time I read that. Michael Keane, and then Tyrone Mings. And I mean, there's
And Harry Maguire was in the squad, wasn't he?
yeah, he's been obviously been removed. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been removed from the squad, hasn't he? So
Yeah.
that's a whole other podcast, that is. But he's been removed from the squad, so it does leave us. I mean, Eric Dyer, I
You
wouldn't.
can name me 4 centre backs right now who are better than both Michael Keane and Eric Dyer.
Yeah, Derek Dyer is poor, very, very, very poor.
People that I'd have in the squad over those two: James Tarkowski,
Yeah,
and
again,
me.
agree.
Brighton, Lewis Dunk. Brighton,
Yeah,
Adam Webster.
yeah, Lewis Dunk 100%. Adam Webster a bit more sketch on. I think, although it pains me to say it, Connor Cody.
Yeah.
The argument is, oh, maybe you can't play in a 2. I mean, the centre backs we're not stacked for choice at the moment, really, at centre half as we were previously, where we had Ferdinand, Terry, and Sol Campbell years ago. But so I think, I mean, Mings has done. I think, as far as I'm aware, it's gonna look. It looks like it's gonna be Mings and Gomez.
Yeah.
Starting. I mean, I can't. Left back, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
How is
what they're doing.
Bukayo Saka not in that squad?
No,
I'm not even on about Grealish here.
no. I mean, he's made a real pig's ear of the squad. It's just a complete. It's just a topsy turvy. I mean, if I read this out, so there's forwards. We've brought Tammy Abraham, Mason Greenwood, Danny Ings, Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford, Sancho, and Sterling.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's one.
You mentioned Greenwood there.
Yeah, so Mason Greenwood, he's second on the list.
Yeah.
I mean, he won't be playing him. I don't think up top. It'll be Harry Kane, won't it? Will be the first choice, and then they're going to have, and then Ings and
How do you
Abraham
have
on the
that many
bench.
forwards, that many centre backs, that many defensive midfielders, and only one number 10,
Yeah.
and only one left back?
Well,
This
yeah. I
squad
mean,
just seems so unbalanced.
I mean, James Ward-Prowse. I mean, I haven't seen a great deal
Well,
of
I
James.
rate
I'm not gonna.
Ward-Prowse.
Yeah, I think the fact of his set pieces as well, just purely for his set piece. I think that's why I was excited about Kieran Trippier potentially coming to Villa, because everyone sort of said, oh, he might be over the hill. And when I watched him for Atletico Madrid, he was a good player. He played quite well, and he'd add so much to us just purely from his set piece delivery.
Yeah.
But this England squad it's a shambles. It's really bad.
I don't mind Mount being there. I don't mind Ward-Prowse being there. The issue I have is with Winks and Dyer. I don't think you should have both of those in the squad. I think you have one in the squad.
Dyer is an international level footballer. He might have been 3 years ago, 2 years ago perhaps, but in the last few years he's shown nothing to prove that he's worthy of an international spot. Yeah. It's just he's picking players. He for some reason. I mean, he picks people he sort of trusts.
Problem for England. Sorry to interrupt. It's been the age-old problem for England. Managers pick players based on reputation, who they play for, rather than form.
No, I totally agree, and that's what he was the big. Whilst he was coming in, that was his big point. He was going to make it different. He was going to make it a level playing field for everyone. He's going to pick the players on form and not on who they are. Mm-hmm. And that's suddenly gone out the window for some reason. I mean, he picked Harry Maguire with everything surrounding him. Yeah. How he can justify that to himself, or how he justified it to the FA when obviously he told them about it. I mean, how they didn't tell him that it's nonsense and they shouldn't. I don't know, but. Yeah, there's something fishy going on behind the scenes.
I don't think Harry Maguire was Southgate's decision, to be honest. I think that was the FA's decision, and Southgate was forced to go on with it.
Right. Okay.
I think it was a PR move from the FA to try and that's gone terribly wrong, to try and get Maguire in a better look for the English public, I think. Yeah. I think it's a big PR move that's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, it backfired. I mean, they must just make these gun-ho decisions. I don't know when they do it. They must just be all sort of out at the pub making these decisions, just having it out over a pint. Because I mean, they can't be sat down professionally thinking about it. And I mean, because anyone, I mean, even me and you. I mean, we're not big business people. We don't know the inner workings of the FA, but we know full well that decision was wrong, and we know this squad is one of the worst I've seen in a long time. Because I mean, England's been on the up.
Yeah.
I don't like. I really don't like it.
I think we'll end the England podcast for a bit and bring it back to Villa.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll just get
Back to Jack
frustrated.
Grealish and
Yeah.
Southgate's comments last season. Last season, when Grealish was in good form towards the start to middle part of the season, we just played Brighton. Jack played really well. We just played Newcastle. No, Newcastle was the game after the international break.
Oh, I think I remember this as well.
Yeah. Jack got man of the match, scored one, assisted one. Southgate was there at the game. Southgate makes two excuses. Excuse number one, Villa were playing against 10 men and he's only Brighton we were playing against. I think that's disrespectful to a good Brighton side who played very well on the day. And I also think that's disrespectful to Jack Grealish and Jack Grealish's talent. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can't go around saying that. I mean, you're the England manager. What would the English players who are playing for Brighton think?
Yeah.
What would they think about them saying that? Does that mean that I'm never going to get into the side because I play for Brighton? And it's putting the wrong idea in people in players' heads, and it could cause problems for clubs, couldn't it? So yeah, I totally agree. It's just nonsense.
And point number two, Southgate also said that same week, Jack Grealish hasn't had enough Premier League experience. He hasn't proved himself in the Premier League. I think you know where this is going. This week, Calvin Phillips gets called up to the England squad. 0 Premier League appearances. All his appearances in the career has come in the Championship. What's the difference?
He just doesn't like Jack Grealish by the sounds of it. I mean, the comments he made sort of, I think, was either yesterday or the day before regarding Grealish and about the Villa fans are still annoyed because I left for Borough. And I mean, I'm not being funny. I'm almost 24. I'm 24 years old. I can't really remember him leaving for Borough, so I have no idea. To me, he's just an England manager. But the fact he said that,
most of Villa fans, they're on Twitter around our age, between the ages of 16 and 25. Obviously, the older guys that will remember Southgate. But I'd say the majority of football Twitter in closed brackets. Are around our age.
Yeah, roughly.
Those are the ones that are tweeting at Southgate and at England about Jack.
Yeah. And I mean, he's it's just it's come to a point with what I don't know what else he can do. I mean, he got us promoted by him practically with other players as well. But I mean, he was carrying us at some point, and I mean, he's pulled out goals. I mean, at the start of the year, if you just watch his goal against Manchester United. And that's we should have won that again. We should have won that game. But I mean, his goal against Man United just shows that he can. He was his big whatever all the pundits were saying last year near the end of the year, and even at the start of this year near the start, they were saying what he needs to do is he needs to add goals to his game. And he's done that. He's answered that call. I mean, what else the lad's got to do? I just feel for him, really. I really do feel for him. If he was playing for Man United, he would have been in the squad last year.
100%,
yeah.
You look at Jesse Lingard. How many times did he get in the squad just because he was playing for Manchester United?
But again, one of those players that he's if he would have focused as much as, say, I'd have to say Jack, in all fairness to him, because he's knuckled down. When we first saw him, he looked like quite a skinny kid, and he had to build himself to become into a man. And I think that he sort of he has that same. He's not really. I can't. Lost my train of thought. Sorry.
That's all right. He's built himself up and he's improved as a player because of that. Is that what you?
Yeah. So he's
physical strength.
Yeah, and he's like I say, he's become a better player because of that. He realised what was not so good about him.
What
So
was
his
needed.
physical size, and
Yeah.
when he was at Notts, because he was class at Notts, I think he was Notts County, wasn't it? He went on loan
Yeah.
to, and he was class there. All the Notts County fans always still say that they still love Jack because of what he did there. But when you look at the photos of him, when I've sort of looked at photos of it, he looks so small and so skinny, and he's
Yeah.
come and he's developed himself and he's worked on everything. And I mean, the kid has got absolutely everything. And I mean, I was one of these people, and I'm very, very cautious to start saying, "Oh, they're going to be the best player, and they're going to be the class. They're going to be the best."
Yeah.
And I was very cautious about that with Jack. I wasn't one of those that really blew his trumpet until last year after that 10-game period, and I
Yeah.
mean specifically this year as well, because he's just shown what he can do.
For me, unless you have something special, and we'll get onto Douglas Luiz later, I need
Yeah.
to be watching someone for quite a long amount of time before I can have a proper judgment on them.
Yeah, because
For
people
me.
have bad games, and you can't. It's not the way. You can't judge players on one game because
Yeah,
everyone
we'll
has off
go into
games.
a bit of players that maybe did struggle at first and improve later, but for
Yeah,
now, talk about Jack Grealish
yeah,
and
yeah,
the improvement in his game over the last 3 years.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's because he went out because he was injured, and I mean, when he got injured, it showed we scraped some results, and I mean, this was in the championship. We still scraped some
Yeah,
results, but when you're without him, you do realise now when I'm watching Aston Villa without him in the side, you can
yeah,
you really know he isn't there.
hmm
It makes it, because the thing what he does, he might not. He's one of these players that could, whenever he gets the ball, he does something with it.
yeah,
Unless he's having a complete nightmare, which is not very often anymore, he's always in the game. So whenever he gets
yeah,
the ball, players are petrified when he turns. They don't know what to do. And I mean, he glides past players, and to the naked eye, he looks like he's not running very fast. He doesn't look like he's just like bolting past people like Adama Traore would bolt past people.
hmm
But he just goes one way, dips his shoulder, and then he's gone the other way, and the player's still leaning but the opposite side, and he doesn't know what's hit him. And I think when you've got a player who can do that and can do it consistently against any team he's playing against, I
yeah.
think you've got a real player on your hands.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. He's outstanding,
yeah,
isn't
yeah. I could sing his praises all. I mean, the goal, just to name some of the goals he scored. I mean, the Cardiff goal, the volley, the amount of players, and I mean top players would volley that 70 yards over in the 86th minute, wasn't it? I think
he?
as
Yeah,
well, 0-0 at Villa Park, and he scored, and he just calm and buries it like as if he's playing down the park with his friends.
yeah.
He just makes it look so easy. We could talk about Grealish for all day of all the qualities.
Okay.
I think the only problem, the only thing that could have went against him, again, just quickly about England, what could have went
Yeah,
against him was when he obviously got caught with the controversy when he was crashed his Range Rover
yeah.
when he was went out during the lockdown. But again, I would have said that could have been the problem. But at the end of
Then
the day,
Maguire.
they had Maguire, and Maguire had done something
He
a
also
lot
had Walker
worse.
in the squad, who had the thing with the prostitutes, didn't he?
Oh yeah, good
Walker's
God, yeah, I
also in the
forgot.
squad.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
sort of forgot about that. He's given I mean, these players seem to. So I mean, Walker, that story went away quite quickly. I mean, it's not been meant. I haven't heard about that in a long time.
no.
Whereas
You
Grealish, it keeps
kind of
being
forgot
brought
about
up.
it, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. I think the Grealish is everyone's favourite player to hate. Any
Yeah.
team that opposes us, and I
Oh,
think the proper.
he sells newspapers, isn't he? He's one
Yeah,
of
exactly.
those players, I mean. You stick him on the
Yeah,
back of the newspaper, people are going to buy it.
yeah, exactly. Because girls all love the look of him. Because I mean, I'm for
Yeah.
one, my sister absolutely loves him. But yeah, the girls all love him, and and fans all love him
Yeah.
because of what he does on Twitter as well. Like when he
Yeah.
does the I've kept my club up, my club
Yeah.
in capital letters. I mean, stuff like that's going to endear him to the fans even more. Let alone being a Villa fan for his whole life. It didn't matter about it. But if you're doing that
Yeah.
sort of thing, he's going to endear himself.
Yeah.
So he does all the right things, really. It's a bit just I'll let him off for once. So I
Yeah.
didn't have really any opinion. I thought just let him as long as he doesn't harm anyone, I guess.
Yeah.
But just I'd recommend obviously not to do it again.
Yeah. For me,
Yeah,
the lad's a superstar in the making. I
Yeah,
think he's so marketable. He
yeah,
plays in such an appealing way to the eye. He can
yeah,
score goals. He can create chances. He can make assists. This is a huge statement, but he may be England's most marketable player since David Beckham. For me,
yeah.
the big
I think
statement.
big statement. I think the only thing again goes against him. He doesn't play for one of the quote unquote sort of the fantasy clubs or the
Yeah,
attractive clubs. So he doesn't play for. If he went to Tottenham, even though
yeah,
Tottenham haven't won anything in how many years, that would be considered him playing for a bigger club. And I think that would make him even more marketable.
yeah,
Or if he was at United, I mean, imagine the sort of the fans, sort of he'd be whatever Jack Grealish 8 or Grealish 9, whatever it was. All you can imagine across the world, people buying those shirts, and when you're going abroad, people walking around with Grealish shirts on. And I think he's the only player that we've developed in for
yeah.
since I've been alive that could possibly do that. So yeah,
Mhm.
I think he's a real talent, and I think he's had to work at it because it's not because there's been how many talents have we seen that have come through that we're thinking, oh, they're going to be the next big thing, and it just doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, this is what I want to happen for Grealish. I want him to stay at Villa for the next 2 seasons. This
Yeah,
season we finish mid-table. The season after we push for Europe with
yeah,
new signings, let's say.
yeah,
And then he's then proved himself, write himself into Villa folklore, become a club icon, maybe even a legend, depending on how well he does.
yeah.
I wouldn't say he's a Villa legend yet because of how big Villa are as a club. I don't think he's
No,
done
there's
quite
too many
enough.
more.
Yeah,
Too many, too many people have done too many great things of it. We've got too long of a
yeah.
history at the moment. But if he
I wouldn't
stayed
consider
for
him a club legend.
no, I'm not yet. No, not all. But like I said, I mean, I'm one of them hopeful people. I mean, if he got to in the next 2 years, I wouldn't want him to move in this country. I
Yeah.
wouldn't begrudge him a move to a club like Real Madrid.
Yeah, do
Real
you know what,
Madrid would,
mate?
or
That's exactly what I was about to say. I wanted to
yeah,
stay for
yeah,
2 years. You just hit the nail on the head. That's
yeah,
exactly what I was going to say. I wanted to stay for the next 2 years, then move to
yeah.
someone like Inter Milan, Borussia Dortmund, or
Juventus,
Atletico Madrid.
yeah, yeah. That I think
Might not be good enough for the elite clubs, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, but I think
yeah,
the teams just below that, your Borussia Dortmund, your Inter Milans, your
yeah,
Atletico Madrids, I think would be perfect for.
yeah. I mean, I'd hope that he's good enough to he's good enough to go to a Real. I mean, the thing that people say is, "Oh, will he get in?" And I mean, the better teams he plays with, if they
Yeah,
Real Madrid will be giving him the ball in areas that we aren't going to give it to him because we're
yeah.
not as dominant in games.
Hmm.
So if he gets the ball and he looks up and say he's got Ronaldo making a run or he's got Messi making a run or can you imagine he's going to put it straight on their foot and
Yeah,
the, the passes that we see and the assists that we see and the class that we see him do week in week out that because we're Aston Villa fans so we watch it all every day but normal football fans wouldn't necessarily turn on an Aston Villa game
yeah,
but if if he's doing that in the Champions League everyone would be
yeah,
talking about him. The fact that he does it in the Premier League on a home game against like Crystal Palace or something,
yeah,
it's still as good because you still need to do that. It's not just because it's slightly less. I mean, the gulf I think from sort of Champions League to Premier League is I'd say slightly smaller than the one from Championship to Premier League because I think that's a huge jump. I mean,
yeah.
I think that's a huge jump.
Hmm.
And I think that when you're performing in the Premier League, it's fair to say, unless you have a bit of a stinker, you're going to perform in the Champions League in a
Yeah,
good side, in a side that like a Real Madrid or even a Borussia Dortmund, he'd fit in again. That's a good call.
yeah,
He'd fit perfectly there. But I think he's a bit bigger than that. I mean, Borussia Dortmund aren't guaranteed to win trophies, and I mean, if he's going to leave, I'd want him to leave for a club that are going to guarantee to win trophies.
yeah,
It would be a bit of a because I mean that's the sort of level challenging for Europe and challenging in Europe is the level we want to get to. So in two
yeah,
years, depending on Touchwood, the investment that the owners put in and how ambitious they are, we could have a completely new look squad in 2 years. We could be not a force yet because it's going to take a while, and I think we still struggle a bit next year. I think still, but in a few years, 2 or 3 years, especially with the academy we've got, we're going to be a great. So we're going to be a great side, and I think I'd like him to spearhead that, but I wouldn't begrudge him a move to a Rail.
I'm going to play devil's advocate a bit here. For me, based on what I've seen this season, I don't think he's good enough yet. That's the important word, yet, for Real Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich. I think we need to see more from him in the Premier League, getting on the ball more in a better Villa team, getting more goals, getting more assists, and
that is one I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to interrupt. That is one I do slightly disagree with. I don't think that. I think I agree with Bayern. He wouldn't get into Bayern's team because of how class they are. Yeah. But what we're saying, if he went into, but especially Barca at the moment. I mean, I watched them play against when they got thrashed 8-2.
Yeah.
I watched that game, and their midfield was non-existent. I mean, they are not the side they once were. If you put Jack Grealish in that side, they become a better side. I'd go that far. Him and Messi. Could you imagine the link up between the link up play and because of the intelligent, they're just purely intelligent. It's just they're intelligent players, and I think he would fit in sort of there. I agree with Bayern. He probably wouldn't get into them now. He's not quite ready. Perhaps even Real Madrid, but again, Real Madrid weren't brilliant last year. I mean, there's not been any real standout teams. Yeah, they won the league, but I mean they weren't, as far as I'm aware, from what I was sort of hearing out there, they weren't particularly great. And I mean, they won the league because again, Atletico. When I watched Atletico, that's the poorest Atletico side I've seen in years.
Yeah.
I mean that if you look at the front line, Diego Costa is past it now, and so is Morata. Morata never really. I don't really rate him. He's a good player, and he's a good level. He's good level. I don't think he's that level.
One good year at Madrid. Other than that, he hasn't hit. I might be wrong, but I don't think he's got more than 15 goals other than those 2 years I mentioned.
No, he's not. He's failed to live up to expectations. He's another one of them, like Freddie Adu from years ago, who just never. You think you hear about him, he's going to be the best thing ever, and then it never happens.
Yeah. For me, I just think we need to see one more year of Jack at Villa before your Real Madrid, your Bayern Munich, your Juventuses.
I think another 10 years will do.
On that radar. I think we need 10 years. One more year from him.
I'd give it 10. Give it 10. We'll keep him for 10, and then he can go when he's like 33. But I agree. Yeah, I agree. A year or two, and he'd run some of the biggest sides in Europe, definitely.
I'm going to ask you this question. If Jack Grealish stays at Villa two more years, and in those 2 more years, he gets 20 goal contributions next season, 25 goal contributions the season after, we get a bid of 100 million for him, would you be happy to let him go?
I wouldn't be happy, especially with that amount of contributions in the Premier League. I think with the way the transfer market is now, I mean, if the way I look at it, I try and compare it to, say, others. So if you look at people in his position that have gone recently that you'd say was his quality,
Coutinho.
I mean, how much Coutinho? I'd say Jack Grealish is Coutinho's level, 135 million. So that was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
So that if that price now is probably 150.
Affected the market a little bit, not overly, but a little bit.
Yeah. I think just the pure once the fans are allowed back in, once they can do that, everything. I mean, football. I mean, the top level. I mean, the lower levels that will feel this effect. I mean, the ripple in the EFL, they'll feel that for 5 years maybe.
Yeah.
But the bigger sides, I mean, the sides that are in the Premier League, they've got that much revenue coming in. As long as they maybe live a little bit cautious, 1 or 2 years.
Chelsea, haven't you? Chelsea have. They brought Ben Chilwell a few hours before we recorded this. They've announced his signing, 50 million. They brought Werner, 50 million. CH, 35 million. Juan Havertz, 80 million. You know what I mean?
It's just, It's
Yeah.
just staggering. I mean, because as far as I was aware, how I understood it, because I try not to view FFP because it winds me
Yeah.
up because it's really fixed for the bigger teams.
Mhm.
But the way I understand it is that that this year is not taken into account at all.
Yeah.
Is that
Oh
correct? So
yeah.
so basically,
No,
I
it's
think
not.
it's a
It's not
or is
completely
it
voided, but they're going to be a lot
right?
less strict on the rules. So
Okay,
Villa
so
can't go
that's
out and
why that
spend 200 million. Villa can probably go out and spend
right.
100 million, not 200.
Right, right. So, but I mean, how is it? How did Chelsea then go out and spend however much? That's why I find FFP. I find it staggering, really, because I mean, how can they go out and spend that
Because of their
much
sponsorship
on
deal.
players?
Chelsea have a
Yeah.
massive sponsorship deal with Nike,
Oh,
and that
right.
brings in a
They
lot of
always.
revenue for them.
They. I mean, the biggest side. I mean, we've already seen it with the Etihad. I mean, the Villa could potentially do the exact same thing and just set up a dummy company like the Etihad Airways. It's not a dummy company,
Yeah.
but it's the same. We could set up a dummy company,
Well,
and they could
Nasser
funnel
Sawiris owns
500 million.
7% of Adidas, isn't he?
Right. All right. I never knew that. I never knew that. I knew he was worth about the richest man in
Yeah,
Egypt, and
he's
he's
the
about 4 billion,
majority
isn't he?
shareholder in Adidas. So
Oh,
the good
right.
thing
I
about
actually
our
never knew
owners
that.
now, we know they're both
Right.
legit. Wes Edens
Yeah.
owns the Milwaukee Bucks.
Owns.
They're a
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
basketball team.
Yeah.
He has what I like to call it is not money they have, it's the money they have coming in, if you know what I mean. They
Right.
have multiple
Right.
revenue streams, both of them, and they both bring in
Right.
probably billions a year.
They're probably earning money while we're sat here recording this now. Within an hour, they
Yeah,
probably both earn 50,000 each, and they're not even doing anything. They're
probably
probably
more than that.
just running companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, just running company, like just being having their name on a company and things.
That's why
But yeah,
things are looking so good for Villa at the moment because both our owners
yeah,
have money coming in. Nasser from Adidas, he probably brings in stupid amount of money per day for that because whatever Adidas earns,
yeah,
70% of it goes to him. And Wes Edens has what he brings back from his companies in America. He owns quite a few, and he also has a Milwaukee Bucks.
yeah.
If they sell a player, that money goes straight to
Which
him,
yeah,
which I think they have
and
done.
it's
I
a lot
think
of
Milwaukee Bucks have sold their best player this season. I think
right. Okay.
they
Oh, but
sold
I mean
their version of Jack Grealishs this summer, which
yeah,
is something we might have to be worried about, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
different scenarios, isn't it?
Look, it's 50-50 as well. I mean, so
Yeah,
we have to agree to that. I mean, the thing is, because it would potentially go straight back into the club anyway,
yeah,
they'd have less inclination. I mean, they wouldn't, but they're not. If they were buying Villa to make purely just to make money, they would have once they got us up, they would have sold us
sold it
straight
straight away.
away. Sold us straight away, pretty much,
They
wouldn't
would have
they?
gained about
Uh,
50 million each from doing that, I think.
yeah, and then they would have had to do 6 months work, and then they get out, and then they've done it. They
Yeah,
could potentially go, oh, we'll
profit.
go to another championship club. I think they're there because of the history,
Yeah,
because we are who we are. I mean, it sounds cliche. Tom Hanks supports us. It sounds crazy, but the
Prince
Prince
William.
of England supports us.
Yeah,
Yeah, supports us. We are back in the sort of 20, well, 20, well, I said 20, 40 years ago or so, we
yeah.
were dominant in Europe. I mean, we won the European. I
Well,
mean,
even 10
my
years ago,
my
mate,
dad was
I'm sure
spoiled.
you would have been a bit of fan under O'Neill. Even
Yeah,
even
yeah,
2008 to 2010, we were pushing for Europe. That's 10 years ago.
yeah. I mean, the goal against Martin. I mean, that was he's probably one of the best players I've ever seen in a Villa shirt. Martin Larson.
Yeah,
Um, he was something else. But yeah, I mean that era we had. I think that was probably the best defense we've had in a
in
long
Europe.
time. I mean, because
Yeah,
yeah, Wilfred Boomer
yeah,
at left back, who's sort of forgotten about by a lot of fans. He was absolute because he got injured near the end and had to
yeah.
basically he terminated his contract, I think,
Mm,
because he kept getting injured. But he was unreal. He was a class
yeah.
player.
Yeah, for me, because we have those incoming revenue streams I'm talking about, I think FFP isn't an issue for us, pretty much.
No, no, not. They know what they do. I mean, Christian Perslow wrote the rules. He was one of the
Yeah,
people who wrote the rules on FFP as well. So he'll know any little loopholes or any way of getting around it. And
Yeah.
he's told us from day one not to worry about that. So
A little segue here, whilst we're talking about FFP, something that brings in money to the club is kits and a kit sponsor and money that fans pay for kits and shirt sales.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on the new kits and training tops, training gear, how they've announced the kits? What are your overall feeling towards it?
I was worried. Like I said, I quite like them. I mean, they're not. I'm one of those that sat sort of not on the fence. I don't like it, but I don't dislike them.
Yeah.
I prefer the away kit. The away kit, I just feel as though it looks a bit cheap. Like
Mm,
I've not seen it in person yet. As of yet, I got paid actually yesterday after we were recording this, so I'm going to be getting one to see what it looks like in person.
yeah.
But again, I think we were spoiled when we had the loot kits because
Yeah.
those were the most
I
beautiful
still
kits
have
we've
that
had
kit.
in
Yeah.
years. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and I love that kit. I mean, I'll cherish that forever. I mean, especially because we should have got promoted that year, really. But yeah,
Yeah.
that kit was just a gorgeous kit, and I mean, I think that's why when I look at ones now, unless I sort of always compare it in my head to those.
Mhm.
But again, I'll be glad. I'll be sort of glad when we get rid of Kappa. It's not. I've never seen it as a sports really wear brand.
Yeah.
It's more of a. I mean, it's two ladies sat back to back as the logo. It just doesn't. It's not. Doesn't strike you as a sports kind of brand. Um,
I'm looking
but
at
yeah,
it. I've got the training top on now, and just looking at the Kappa logo as you're speaking. It does look kind of strange, doesn't it?
yeah.
I've
It's
got the
not.
bit of training kit
It
on.
just. Yeah. It's so. It's like what? Why? It's like, and it looks like an M. I don't get it. I just don't get why that's the logo. It doesn't even have a K. Like you don't even notice. It's not even a K. It's just two women sat back to back. So yeah, I'll be
Yeah,
glad to get rid of them. Glad
I
to get rid
actually
of them.
think the training kits and the training wear are actually nicer than the actual kits. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean
I
that
brought
tends to.
the is it the staff training kit? It's basically the one that Dean Smith wears.
Where is it? I'm just gonna try and get it up now.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at. I'm just
yeah,
looking at
I
them
brought that
now.
kit. Yeah,
The player training ones, the light blue jumpers, I really like
yeah.
those.
I've brought
And they got the player.
the staff training kit. It's the one that Dean Smith and Shakespeare wear.
Oh, well, I'm just getting them now. DS. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I've always, I never tend to get the training kit. But I mean, the training kit, I think was it last year where it was that electric blue, or was that
yeah.
Luke as well? Was that Luke as
That was
well?
last year, I think.
Right. I mean, I think that jumper was one of the nicest training jumpers I've ever seen. But
Yeah,
I'm just trying to look for Dean Smith, and I can't actually see. I haven't actually got that one up. I haven't actually seen that one yet.
yeah.
I've
That one's
actually looked
pretty
at pictures. I just can't remember it. Obviously not
nice.
taken it in, not thinking of it. Um.
You
Oh yeah, I
search
can see that. I
up
think I can see that now.
Dean Smith. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the one.
yeah. That's quite nice. That is. I quite like
Yeah,
that. It's just simple as well, isn't it?
yeah. That's quite what I like about it. It's kind
Yeah.
of linked back to the older kits. I think bit
Yeah.
more simplistic. Nothing really
Yeah.
stands out too much. There's nice little details on the sleeves, I
Mm.
think, and I just quite like the sleek design of it for me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the training kits are nice. Again, I think they look nicer than the actual kits. I mean, I'm just looking through
Yeah,
the kits now on the website, club website, and I mean, it just whether it's the photo, I think it may just be the photo. Whether it is that, I'm not sure, but it doesn't look very
yeah,
not professional. It just doesn't look very Premier League style. I think it doesn't help with the Kappa because I can't get my eyes off those two women sat back to back.
yeah.
It's just jumping out at me every time I look at them. But
Going
yeah,
back to Wirus and him having a
yeah,
share in Adidas,
yeah.
I don't understand why Adidas aren't our shirt sponsor.
No, yeah, I agree.
Surely
And
that would make
Adidas,
sense.
yeah, and I like Adidas
Where
kits
he's
as well. I've always
actually
liked Adidas.
has the majority stake in Adidas.
Yeah,
Why
so
aren't we sponsored by Adidas?
using them, yeah. Yeah, and then they could
A
grossly
little
overprice
way
the
of getting around
sponsorship.
FFP.
Yeah,
Have
exactly.
Adidas was like 40 million a season for to be our shirt sponsor or something, as a
Right,
way of getting around FFP.
right, okay. That would be a clever way of doing. That would be a clever way of doing. I mean, like I say, because the Etihad Airways are paying in. I think
Yeah,
they were found obviously not guilty in the end, so they're allowed to
yeah.
now go into the champ. Well, they were found guilty,
Champions
but
League thing,
only
isn't it? Yeah,
they had nothing. They had like a fine, which is absolutely nothing to Man City.
yeah,
But they have obviously the Etihad Airways, and they must grossly, because we both, you and I and every other football supporter knows that the
yeah.
Etihad doesn't fill up every game, and they
No,
can't be earning. I can't see how they're not a big force around the world. You don't
no,
go to say if I went to France or something on holiday with my family. When you're walking around, you do see people Man United shirts, Real Madrid shirts, even
I've seen
Chelsea
it
to a
for the
certain extent,
shirts
more and
before.
more. Yeah, Villa shirts, but you don't see people in Man City shirts.
No,
Um, I mean, I mean, I guess you do a little bit more now, but I mean, I'd never before, especially before they had all the money, I'd never seen a Man City shirt abroad ever. Yeah,
no.
no, it wasn't, and I didn't know a Man City fan, and then suddenly
Funny
they
thing
get all this
is,
money.
do you remember Villa 4, Manchester City 2, 2008? Gabby scored a hat trick.
Gabby, yeah, Gabriel von Horsker and a hat trick,
That was
yeah,
actually a couple weeks before they got took over, and I was watching that on holiday actually.
right.
And I was watching it with a group of Man City fans, and they
Oh,
actually said during that game that they were going down that season.
really?
And then they get the new
And,
owners, sign Robinho, sign a few more
yeah,
players, and stay up.
Rubinho for
Yeah,
30 million, weren't it?
yeah.
And then they brought
They
in players like Alano.
yeah.
I
Those Man
remember
City
that.
fans actually said they were going down that season before the owners came, which is madness.
Yeah, because it shows what, and that was before FFP come in, so they're allowed to come in and just buy everybody, which they have
Yeah.
done. They've just spent. If you look through, they've spent so much money, and I think I
I
don't
think
get how. That's
1.5
why it always
billion
confuses me.
spent.
How much? Sorry,
1.5 billion, I think.
1.5 billion,
Yeah,
and that's just like, and that's it's just staggering. How can they do that? And then last year we were like almost going under.
yeah,
How can they make FFP laws like that where it's you're punishing the smaller sides rather than making the bigger sides come in line with the smaller sides? You're doing it the opposite way around. You're trying to it's like they're already handicapping the teams that aren't below the elite
yeah,
already because they can't spend the money that the elite can spend.
yeah,
And I think, especially because Man City don't pull in loads of people, where's this money coming from that they're, because you've got to balance the books. How are they balancing the books when they're spending that much money? 1.5 billion. They can't turn that over in I don't know, in 20, 30 years, or could they? I mean, I can't,
yeah.
through purely footballing means. I mean, they haven't won any
That's for the last
Champions League, so they're not
12
winning any
years, I
massive
think.
prize money.
All that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's not good. It's not good. It's the FFP needs seriously re-looking at.
Hmm. Shall we
Yeah.
move on to transfers?
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like, well, the lack of
Yeah,
transfers.
lack of transfers so
Yeah.
far.
Um.
My take on it, I'll give my view.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me, I think the strategy that the club are employing, I think if it works, it could be a master stroke in terms of
Mhm.
waiting, allowing
Yeah.
players to maybe put in a transfer request, Ben
Second guess
Rama,
themselves.
Edward, players like
Yeah.
that, and then getting players cheaper because of it. I think if it works, it could be very good for
Very
us.
clever.
However, at the
Mhm.
same time, it's extremely risky.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very risky. I mean, I don't really. I mean, I looked through just before I come on
Yeah,
today. I looked through the completed transfers. I mean, I've actually got it open still now.
yeah,
So I mean, you're looking at the clubs. There's not been a lot of the same goes. There's not been a lot of work done. I
no,
mean, just working backwards. So Wolves have brought one in, which is Luke Mattison from Rochdale for 1 million.
yeah.
So that's not going to be.
Have you
You don't think
seen
that's going to be a first
they're
team?
selling Doherty to Spurs as well? Matt Doherty
And,
again.
oh, is that just happened?
The Telegraph has reported it, 15 million, which I think is a very cheap fee. Matt
Right? Is
Doherty
it?
to Spurs.
He's gone to Spurs. That is a cheap deal. That's good
Yeah.
business if that's true.
I
But I
think
mean,
Foden have some issues as well. Foden have money problems
who's that? Sorry.
because of COVID. Foden are struggling money-wise.
Right. Okay.
They've had to
Yeah. I mean,
let go 10,000 staff worldwide.
crikey. But it's
Yeah,
not. That's not good. I mean, everyone's clearly struggling because I mean, if you look throughout the Premier League, because West Ham was one of the teams. They were awful last year.
yeah,
They've let about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they've got 7. They've let 7 go.
yeah.
And at least 4 of them would you class first team. They've not brought anyone in. West Brom have brought in 1 coming up.
Which
I
players
mean, pardon, sorry.
which
They
players have
let
they
go
let go?
Jordan Hugill's gone to Norwich for 5 million.
Yeah,
Albion Ajeti has gone to Celtic 4.5 million. So that is a good sign for us. I believe Ajeti's a forward player, isn't he?
yeah.
That might be a good sign for us. I'm not seen that before.
Big
But
one.
then they've let go.
Yeah,
Carlos Sancho has been released.
yeah,
Pablo Zabaleta has been released.
yeah.
And someone called Stephen Hendry they've released as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are the first team players. And someone called Jeremy Ngaki has gone to Watford on a free.
He's a good player. Yeah,
But you're looking through. There's no West Brom have brought 1 in, which is Matis Pereira, who was already there last year.
yeah,
Tottenham made 1 signing, which is Pierre-Emile Højbjerg.
yeah,
And Joe Hart on a free, if you call him a signing.
yeah,
If you call him a signing. And Southampton, they were doing much better near the end, I guess. But they've not brought many in. They've brought in Salisu from Real
yeah.
Valladolid for 11, and
He's a good
that's
player,
about it.
honestly.
Yeah, good player. But again, what I'm saying is that they're not. There's no
Yeah,
clubs are making.
actual
Yeah,
investment.
the only teams that have gone out and just that
Chelsea.
can go out and just
Yeah,
Chelsea and of course Man City, but Man City can go and throw money at it like there's no tomorrow. For
yeah,
again, we've covered how
Messi.
silly that is, but
Yeah,
they can just throw money at it like there's no tomorrow. And
yeah,
Chelsea are the only other team. Everyone else, Fulham brought 1 player in.
yeah.
Leeds have brought in 5, but I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, one's from Wigan, one's from Linfield, one's from Leighton Lorient.
Yeah,
So it's Lorient, sorry, I think that'll be France, sorry.
yeah.
Then Cody Drama from Fulham. So I mean, no one's brought in quality and brought in numbers.
Have you
It's
seen
been
who Leeds
very.
want to sign now?
Pardon, sorry.
Leeds have agreed a deal with Valencia for Rodrigo.
Oh yeah. Again, I think one of those players who promised loads when I was a little bit younger, especially like a
Yeah.
year or so. Well, not a year or so, about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. He was. I mean, because he's quite young still now, isn't he? I
No,
mean,
he's
he's not
29,
particularly.
30.
Was he 29? I see. That's how.
Yeah,
That's his career from when I was when I remember him first coming about when he was 22, maybe
yeah,
23. He was touted to be for great things, and it just never
yeah,
ever happened for him. I think
yeah,
coming in at 29, he's coming to the Premier League for one last payday.
yeah.
He's 29. He might want to prove himself. He might prove us all wrong, and he might be class, but he's one of them. I wouldn't. I'll probably end up eating my words, but I can't. I'm not too worried about that sort of signing. That sort of signing. 29. Would we be happy about bringing in a 29-year-old? Would we? Would you
I've
want
got his
Rodrigo?
stats up here. Last season, he played 28 times,
Yeah.
got 4 goals and 7 assists, and they're paying 30 million for a 29-year-old who's 30 soon.
Yeah. And that those stats, and I mean everyone bar about 5 teams in the La Liga, whatever they want to say. There's maybe 6, 7 actually.
Yeah,
Other than that, 6, 7, or 8. There's about 6, 7, or 8 teams that are decent, and then the rest there's some real dross in that league. I mean,
yeah,
in the Premier League, it's not you don't get players scoring 4 or 5 goals against the team. It's
yeah.
always you don't tend to.
30
Whereas over
million
there,
on Messi scoring 4 or 5
yeah,
goals, to be fair there.
yeah. But
That.
yeah. I guess. But I mean, you don't see many games. It's like 6-0, 6-1. So I've
Yeah,
seen a lot of big results there. But yeah, I guess fair enough. He might come good, but I don't. I wouldn't want him. I wouldn't have him near our side. If he would have come in, I would have went.
yeah.
I'll give him a chance for Villa, but he's not.
Yeah, when I
He's
first saw
not
he
my
going
cup of
to
tea.
Leeds, I thought the fee would be about 10, 15 million. Then I saw he's 30
Yeah.
million. And like, Leeds have
Yeah,
been doing
10
over.
million more than Wesley.
Yeah,
10 million more than Wesley. Wesley is currently, well, he obviously got called up to the international for Brazil whilst he played for us. He scored,
yeah.
he scored quite, it was 5 or 6, was it? Or 4, 5, 6?
Yeah,
I can't remember
Wesley's
exactly. I didn't
stats
look it
last
up.
season, he played about 22, 23 games, scored 6, assisted
Yeah.
2. Isn't bad.
Yeah. So, and I mean, he's 20 million. He's about 21 years old, 22 years old.
22, yeah.
And he's gonna, yeah. And I think I'd much rather take Wesley and 10 million than have that Rodrigo.
Yeah, yeah.
To be quite honest, 30 million is they're robbing them blind, really.
Shall we go on to Villa
Yeah.
transfers?
Yep. Wicked.
I'm going to ask you a question. I want to
Yep.
give you 5 players in any
Yep.
position. So
Yep.
players that we need, positions that we need, that you would like
Yeah.
us to sign. So let's say 1 striker, 2 wingers, centre mid, right back, etc. 5
Yeah.
players in any
All right,
position
then.
that you'd like us to sign.
Okay. So, the first one would be Rashika.
Yeah,
I've not watched. I'm not going to lie and say I've watched him week in and week out, but I have seen him in little bits because I've
yeah,
seen what I did tend to do was watch highlights of the Bundesliga,
yeah,
especially sort of last year and stuff. So I did
yeah,
see a little bit of him, but he seems like the player that we're missing. A flair winger. He's got
yeah,
pace. He creates and scores goals.
yeah,
Um, he's been playing in a Bremen team a Werder team that wasn't particularly good. Weren't very good last year. They were struggling. I think with players like Jack Grealish and players like that around him, he'd be class. He'd be the first one I want to pick.
yeah,
Ben Rama, because I'd say the weakest part we've got now, as much as I hate to say it, because I do quite I like the way Trezeguet works hard, and El
yeah,
Ghazi sort of went through Ramadan, just didn't do Ramadan or something, wasn't it? So he could play in the
yeah.
final like
The player
properly.
finance. Yeah,
So he actually went against his religion. So it hurts me to say because I like them, but we need wingers. So
yeah,
Ben Rama will be my second one. Again, I watched him in the championship playoff final, and I saw people slating him on Twitter, and I remember having a little bit of an argument with someone who said that one game he's rubbish, he can't do anything. I was like,
yeah,
you can't judge a player off one game. We played in the playoff final, and
yeah.
we weren't particularly very good. But would you say then that John Terry was a rubbish player in his day? Would you say that Jack Grealish is a rubbish player? They're not rubbish players off one performance. So
Yeah.
I'd have him because he's absolutely some of the things he can do with his feet and with better players he'd be class. And I think he suits more the Premier League than he
Is this
does
me like Rashika
Championship.
you're on about?
No, this is Ben Rama.
Ben Rama, yeah,
Yeah, I think for Brentford, like I say, he's I think if he came up to the Premier League, it would more suit him than the Championship would.
yeah,
I think it'd be less games, so it'd be more. He'd be fitter because obviously Brentford pretty much had him in every game because they need the best players playing.
yeah,
And with less games in the Premier League, I think he'd come good because I think it's more technical as well, rather than it's a lot very physical in the Championship. So
yeah,
he'd be my second. So the 2 wingers was Rashika, Ben Rama. I sort of want a left back in a way.
yeah,
Um, regards to who, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I saw that we've been linked with 1 or 2, but they tend to be right backs.
yeah.
I mean, we were linked with Matty Cash at Nottingham Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Left back wise, we perhaps even alone to compete with Target because again, I think we are a little bit short there because if
Especially with Target's injury record.
pardon, sorry.
Especially with Target's injury record.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
want
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
want to be relying on as much as I like Taylor, I don't really
Yeah.
want to be relying I like Taylor as a person, not necessarily as a
Don't
football player.
not no. He gives you. He's one of them players that if you 1-0 up and then it's the 89th minute and their winger gets it and he's 1-on-1 with him, you're
Yeah,
thinking, oh God, you're not. I mean, there's nothing against him because I think in Championship, absolutely solid, perfectly good for the Championship. Didn't believe that. Hey, he was just a scapegoat when we were in the
yeah,
Championship. This is obviously a step up. You're playing against players who are just a level above him.
yeah,
And I think to have like a younger wing back that could sort of compete with Target, that would be the third. particularly having air, because again, we are sort of more starved at left back than right. There seems to be loads of right backs about at the moment, and not so many left backs.
Jamal
But
Lewis
yeah,
hasn't got anywhere from Norwich. Would you like Jamal Lewis to compete with Matt
right.
Targett? He's still
Oh,
in.
he'd be. I mean, he'd probably be in front of him, to be honest, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He was one of the standout players for Norwich last year.
Yeah.
And I believe Max Aarons Max Aarons is a right back, isn't he?
Yeah.
So he was another one. If we were going to replace Almo, which I think would be a little unfair, because I think he's good enough to be a good enough as a fill-in right back. I don't think that's somewhere we need to.
Yeah.
But if we were, that would be another one. But yeah, the last two would be a striker.
Mm-hmm.
Would be Edouard.
Edouard.
Again, because we're linked with him.
Yeah.
Again, I watched him in the Celtic game. They had a game the other day. I think it was like 5. They were playing this Icelandic team. Can't remember the name of the team now. But he got the ball and he just oozed his class. Every time he gets it, he looks calm, and he knows where the back of the net is. I mean, he gets the ball and he beats about 4 people in the box. Makes them, they don't even have a clue where he's gone, and he just puts it in the corner like it's the easiest thing in the world. And I think he'd be
I was watching. I've
proper
been
goal
watching his
scorer.
squad as well, and every goal he seems to score seems to be right in the corner. I think that's a
Yeah,
really good sign.
you can tell
Every finish he
he
makes,
works hard.
bang in the corner.
Yeah, you can tell he works. He's one of them players. You can tell that he's after the training's finished, he goes out there with 20 balls and gets one of the sub keepers or one of the youth keepers to go and stand in goal for me, and he goes and finishes 20, and he probably puts 19 out of 20 of them in the back of the net.
Yeah.
Just runs in one-on-one and just practices it every single day. And I think players like that, I think when they go out of the comfort zone to go somewhere like Celtic, it proves that they're willing to go.
Yeah.
And
He
because
was at
obviously he's from
PSG, wasn't he?
France.
Edouard.
Was he at PSG? Oh, I
Yeah.
never realised he was at PSG. I knew he was at one of the bigger French clubs. I wasn't sure
Yeah,
it
he's
was
at Paris.
PSG. But then obviously
He's
going
from
out your
Paris
comfort
to
zone,
Celtic out of his comfort zone. Yeah.
yeah, and then prove yourself. That shows. I think that's always good to see that they're willing to go out and they want to because he could have sat on PSG's books, being a bit of a wonder kid and just sat there, and played them in the cup game and then just always being the next big thing and never happened.
Yeah.
But obviously he took on himself, moved to Celtic, which I would never move to Scotland. He's braver than me. But yeah, he's moved to Scotland and he's lit it up. And I mean, this thing where the Championship's a lot better than the Scottish League is a little bit unfair, I think, to this SPL.
I think if you look at
I
the
think it's
players that
unfair.
come from Celtic in particular, you got Van Dijk, you
Van
got Stuart
Dijk,
Armstrong,
yeah.
you have Victor
Petrov that
Wanyama
we
as
had.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, Stilian Petrov that we had from them.
Yeah.
We had Carlos Cuellar from Rangers.
Robertson from Dundee.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they are, especially now, they seem to be developing great players, and they're all developing left backs. So I think we should go scouting up there if we want a left back.
Well, we were. I think
Scotsman.
we were interested in a Scottish left back actually. Hickey from Hearts, Aaron Hickey.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
But it looks like he's going to one of the big German clubs. I think it looks like he's going.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Blimey. They're
Which
very
shows how
good.
good he
They're good.
is.
And they're good at recruiting the German clubs, and they know what they're doing. They run like proper football clubs, aren't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, again, so Edouard, and then the final one. Defense. I don't think we need to change too. As mad as it sounds.
Yeah.
The two centre halves, Mings and Konsa will be first choice, and they should be. And then I'd have Gilbert right back because I love him. I absolutely love him. My dad's not a fan. I love him. Every time I watch him, he oozes class to me. He just looks, and I mean, especially after a year, he'll be really good. So again, there's not much else places I'd really want to improve.
Midfield is a backup, you think?
Yeah, probably a backup centre midfielder. But again, what I'd like to play is 4-2-3-1. That's what I'd be looking to play. So you'd have Douglas Luiz and Majin, like sort of not Douglas Luiz holding, Majin doing box to box sort of thing. And then you'd have 3 behind, which are the 2 new wingers, Grealish, and then hopefully Edouard or Wesley, or Samatta. I'd keep Samatta and Wesley for a year because again, 1 year to judge a player, I think it's a little unfair. I mean, we were all very annoyed about Samatta last year because he couldn't hit a barn door when we really needed him to.
Yeah.
But next year he won't have as much pressure on him, and should be maybe allowed playing a little bit more freely. So again, I wouldn't change. I wouldn't look to sign many
Yeah,
others
what
up
I'd
front.
do, I'd look at, do you know John Swift from Reading?
Yeah, we were linked
I'd
to
look
him
to
at the
sign
very,
him
very
quite
start.
cheap. We can get. He's only
Yeah,
got a year left on his contract, so we can get him for about 5-6 million.
right. Yeah, that again, that would be a clever signing because I mean, you're not gonna even if we do end up having to sell him in a few years, you're not gonna get less than say 3 million for him if he's not worked out, he's not done
Yeah,
particularly well. He'll go to either a top championship club or perhaps back to Reading or something else, but they'll
yeah.
go for a little bit less. So we've not really lost much. Again, a signing like that,
Good
I'd be
age as well. I
behind.
think he's 24, 25, John Swift.
Yeah, so again, it's still
Yeah,
got resale value. If you keep him for 3 or 4 years, you can still
yeah,
get rid. If he doesn't work out, you can get rid of him.
yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a good call.
I think he got
Watched him,
11
watched him
goals last
play.
season as well in the
Yeah, I've
championship.
seen it. Like I say, I've seen the stats, but I'm not going to pretend that I've seen him play much because I
Yeah,
don't think I must. I may have seen him when we played Reading,
yeah.
obviously in the championship, but I've not seen him recently
Mhm.
to enough to
Yeah.
make a call on him. But 4 million, 5 million in the Premier League is not a big risk, is it?
No, I think as
No.
a backup centre midfielder, because then if we go through our squad with those signings, we'd
Yeah,
have in goal Heaton, Steer, Neeland. Right back,
yeah,
Gilbert, Al Mohammadi. Centre back, Tyrone Mings, Cancer, Courtney Hawes, and Engels. Left back,
of course.
um, either Norwich Lewis or Hickey, if we sign one of those as
Yeah,
backup. Then,
yeah, yeah,
or starter, Target as left
yeah,
back.
yeah,
Then centre
yeah,
midfield,
yeah.
if it lands through, we'd have him, Marvellous Nakamba, Connor Harahan,
Marvelous.
Douglas
Yeah,
Louise, McGinn, and Swift. Attack and midfield,
yeah,
you'd have Hutter and Grealish. Wingers, you'd have Rashiksa, you'd have
yeah,
Trezeguet, El Ghazi, and Ben
yeah,
Rama. Then forward options,
yeah,
Davis, I think he'll go on loan, so maybe not him.
yeah,
Samata, Wesley, and Edward. I think is a very good squad.
yeah, yeah. That'd be a class squad. If we could sneak Watkins in there
Yeah,
for maybe one of the others, I'd take him because again, he's one of those players that can play on the wing. But again, 26 goals in the championship. We know how. I think that's more than what Tammy got
the
in
same
the
as
season with
Tammy.
us, wasn't it? Was it the
Yeah,
same? Yes. Yeah, so, I mean, that just goes to show. And I mean, I'd say arguably we should have done with the squad that we had the championship. In the championship, I'd say that we had a better side than what Brentford have
yeah,
because obviously we went up. We obviously we got promoted and they didn't. So
yeah,
the fact that he scored 26 on a side that didn't get promoted
yeah.
would suggest that he's done a great job, hasn't he? Especially filling in for Mopé.
Yeah, you've seen Mopé's done pretty well for Brighton as well, coming from
Yeah,
Brentford. So
yeah,
I think Watkins would probably get 9-10 goals in the Premier League.
yeah,
I think more,
yeah.
nothing less. Decent Premier League
Hmm.
striker, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It'd run it. It'd take a year to settle in.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
want to move on to pre-season?
yeah. That sounds great. It sounds good.
Um, at the moment, Villa and Wales. I don't know if they still are. I know that we have been for the last week. The club have arranged a friendly with Bristol City. I don't know if that's been played as well. Would be behind closed doors.
Yeah,
We would have to do that.
we've actually had the friendly first. Um, yeah, Bristol City. Yeah,
Yeah,
they've yeah. So we drew one. I believe we drew 1-1 in the first. No, tell a lie. Sorry, we drew. We lost 1-0 in the first because it was 2 60 minutes.
yeah,
2 60-minute halves with basically two different teams.
yeah,
So the first game, Jamie Patterson scored the only goal
yeah,
for Bristol City, so they won the first half. But
yeah.
in the second half, we actually won 1-0. So the
Yeah.
goal actually came from Ali Samata, and then we managed to keep the clean sheet and keep it out.
Yeah,
So that was the first game. Like I say, the results never ever matter really in these
don't
in
think
these
anything came
games.
from it. Yeah.
No, yeah, and they will
I
shuffle
remember
it
when we
around, and
beat going back a few years. Remember when we beat Inter
yeah,
Milan in the friendly tournament?
yeah.
And we beat
Yeah,
them.
we
And
won
they
the
had a really good
tournament.
team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I remember if you find the game now and read the squad, it's not because you think, oh, I bet they put out like a half a squad or whatever, and you look back and there's like the names are just like staggering when you actually think. And then I think the people who scored are even funnier. I think the Villa players who
Wasn't that the
scored.
season they won the treble as well, Inter Milan? I swear it
Yeah, I
was.
think it was Mourinho because they had Eto. They had Eto there, and Eto there wasn't there for a great deal. He was there maybe a year, 2 years,
I think
maybe. He
that was
weren't there for
actually the season
ages.
they won the treble, and we beat them
Yeah,
3-0
yeah,
pre-season.
yeah. Well, mind you, we beat Leipzig this pre-season.
Yeah, and then Leipzig get to the quarterfinals of
Finals
Champions
of the Champions League, yeah,
League.
and almost pushed Bayern all the way
Yeah,
for the league as well.
so I don't think
Yeah,
you can take too much from pre-season friendlies.
no,
What I
no,
would
not at
take
all.
from it is how well the players can train, how well the players gel together and improve as a squad collectively during the
Mm-hmm.
pre-season, and how well Craig Shakespeare can have an impact on the squad.
How quick he can hit the ground running, and I
Yeah,
think he's a great addition. But I think we're going to touch on that a little bit later.
yeah,
But yeah, I think pre-season it's going to be a weird one. It's no, like I say, it's the 26th of August. When are we in pre-season? The 26th of August.
yeah.
Never in the 24 years of me being alive has that ever happened.
No,
So yeah, it's one of those that it's going to be a weird one. There's not going to be too many games, I don't think.
no.
Again, it's just about getting the players in and getting them all back. I mean, the team, I think last year, the team obviously bonded. If we would have all went down, it would have been heads on the floor. We would have been in the championship, heads on the floor.
Yeah,
But the fact that we stayed up, I think it has got them all just 10 times closer together. It's going to make them fight for each other 10 times more. And I think pre-season is just a fact of getting the new players in that we can as early as possible, just so they can get bedded in. But again, last year we had to bed in how many? I think it was like 11 signings or something silly.
yeah.
So this year, even if we have to bring in 3 or 4, that shouldn't be too big of a adaptation to make, should it? So it will be a weird one, but yeah, there's not much really to say on this work because I mean we usually have a list of fixtures that we can look through,
A bit
and I
different.
mean as far as
Yeah,
I'm aware, we don't. It doesn't exist. So we just got to just wait and take it as it comes. But
yeah.
I can't with no fans etc. There's no need for them to be doing it as normal friendlies. They may as well play behind closed doors.
Yeah,
So I think we'll just see sort of notifications of this maybe a day before they're playing or things like that. We won't ever have any official announcement, I don't think.
no. Shall we move on
No.
to Shakespeare then? His
Yeah,
appointment.
sounds good. Yeah, that
I
sounds like a good. Yeah.
yeah,
What's your
good,
thoughts
good
on
thing to
on
do.
Shakespeare?
For me, I think it's a very shrewd move. I know Dean said he tried to get him in last season, but he
Yeah,
went to Watford just before he was able to give him a call.
right.
He
All right.
gives us very good Prem experience. Was assistant when Leicester won the league. Was with
Yeah.
England for about 3 weeks under Allardyce, and then Allardyce went and
Yeah,
Shakespeare went with
did
him.
the dirty.
Yeah. I think it's more that experience that Leicester are going to be digging into, though.
Right.
The
Yeah.
things of winning a league title, bonding the team together, how it works with Leicester with Ranieri.
You
Because I
get you
think
get.
we're going to look to have a similar squad to Leicester did. We're not going to win the league. I'm not saying anything like that.
Right.
But before Leicester won the league, they finished 17th. They had a great
Right.
league like we have. They had a
Yeah.
united squad. So there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think he's a top acquisition. He comes with absolutely glowing reviews. Everyone that
Yeah.
you see talking about him, it's all positive. You don't see much negative about him. And I think it's one of those things. I think for the coaching and the backroom staff now, I think this year's experience. I've got a few points. So the first is this year's experience. Last year will be huge. They've never managed the Premier League before. They know what they're going to do. So Smith, JT, and O'Kelly know exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They've got years, but Shakespeare's now got a vast amount of experience to come in and join them.
Yeah.
So now they've got 4 heads, all very tactically sound, especially Smith
Yeah.
and Shakespeare. Again, O'Kelly, I'm not too clued up on,
Yeah.
but I know that for a fact that and I think the second point was you've got to take your hats off to them. It was the coaching staff that you don't see the work that they do. And I
Yeah.
mean, when we came back after that lockdown, a lot of teams were sluggish. A lot of teams
You okay?
uh, taking it as like a just taking it as like a nothing game.
Yeah.
Um, and what they did was they obviously knuckled down in the lockdown, went to work on their defence, and we came out with the second best defence in the Premier League, wasn't it, after lockdown? So I mean, you have to take your hat off to them for that, because Conser and Mings arguably our best players when we come back from lockdown, and you've got to take your hat off to the coaching team, because that is not conceding goals is what saved us. Because we had struggled, he obviously identified we struggled scoring goals, so he tried to add. So he was doing sort of training to try and score goals, but you could tell by watching him, it was all about shape and all about defensive discipline. And whereas we were giving away really stupid goals before the lockdown, they disappeared. And if we had the strikers we've mentioned previously that potentially going to sign, we would have won more of those games. The problem was we just couldn't score. So I think you have to take your hat off to them and say, they know what they're doing, I think. And I think next year will be a big year for them. And I mean, I think they'll be judged now next year more than they have been this year. So there'll be, I think, more pressure on them to deliver as well. So that's the points that I'd have to make about those new coaching staff. I think he's a great signing. I mean, because we actually brought in the new director of football as well, haven't we?
Yeah, I was going to be Lange.
Lang.
Johan Lang, is it pronounced? Or Langer?
Lange. Yeah, I think he might be Langer. He's Belgian, isn't he? He was at
Copenhagen.
Anderlecht. Oh, Copenhagen. Apologies. Danish, wasn't he? Sorry. I should know that. He was at Copenhagen, and I mean they've gone strength to strength under him. Apparently reinvented the side, didn't he?
Yeah. For me,
it's exciting.
Quite a clever appointment.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Because what I did, obviously, as soon as we saw the news, we do what all fans do when they find out something like that. They look him up. So I googled him, and then I saw these are all sort of like articles coming from weeks before.
Yeah.
So, and these were all about how he's buying players for X amount and selling them on for X amount, 100K, and then at the end of the year, because he's in Denmark, they're not gonna be able to hold on to him if they get a really good player, a gem. But then what they were clever with is they were selling them on for 10 million, so they're making huge profits. So it just shows that he's actually thinking about who's buying, getting right prices for players, and not just buying players on reputation, which is what we've done for years. I mean, some of them, just to name a few, like Joe Cole and players like that, they were well past it at the time, and we just bought them because of reputation. And I think, that he will bring us a whole different dynamic to the recruitment that we bring in, and I'm hoping I think that's sort of the only what would I say, sort of the saving grace of us taking a while to making transfers. If it had been the same recruitment team and it was got this far, we'd have been thinking, well, what have they been doing for the last 6 months? They should have been making a shortlist for Championship or Premier League, whichever one. But the fact that he's just come in, that's probably why he wanted to get his foot under the table, see what level of players we've already got at the squad, and then decide who he's going to go and get. So I think it's a really exciting time, and I think they've brought in the right man for the right time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Record at Copenhagen is outstanding in terms of the money they made from transfers. And you could see, did you watch the game against Man United? Copenhagen United?
I didn't watch it. No, I think I watched the first one, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't watch it as just to watch it. I think I watched it in passing, sort of thing. But I did see some of the highlights.
Yeah, Copenhagen were very good in that game. I was impressed with how they defended. I was impressed with their play going forward. They played a lot of one-touch stuff. All their players are very comfortable on the ball. They played a decent style. I saw they scored a lot of goals in the league as well. So I was kind of impressed with what I saw from them and the team that Lange helped build at Copenhagen.
Yeah. And I think it's good to see, because the difference between us and Copenhagen is if we do get a good player, I'd like to think we'd be able to keep hold of them. Whereas it's a bit more of it's less of a pulling power playing in the Danish Super League or whatever it's called compared to the English Premier League. So yeah, exciting times in that regard.
Yeah. Speaking of players we could keep hold of, shall we move on to the new contracts for Jack Grealish, Louise, Mings, and McGinn? The possible contracts for them. What are your thoughts on those four and how important they are to the team going forward?
So in regards to this one, Jack has got a fair amount on it. We're in the driving seat with his contract because he signed one. Was it last? I think it was last year, or was the year that Tottenham were coming for him. So it was the end of last year, near the start of last year. So he's still tied down for quite a little while. So we are in the driving seat with him. So again, about tying him down, I'd worry about it when there's 2 years, but I can't see him being the type of player to run down his contract and leave us for a free and leave us in the lurch. Even if he did want to go, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do it that way. So again, I'm not too worried about Jack. He's not someone I would be worried about. Douglas Luiz, I guess you could. He's one of them players that because he does his hair does his hair differently every few weeks, and he's like a very flashy sort of player because he just comes across as that sort of way. He's like a sort of like a Rolls Royce of a midfielder. He comes across as a very flashy. You'd think, perhaps he wouldn't be up for the fight, and he wouldn't be interested once he knew that we weren't going to be this great side that's probably been sold to him by Suso and the other recruitment members. But what you saw was when the going got tough, Louise got going. He was better when he had his back against the wall, and when we were really struggling, he pulled out some of the best performances. And I mean, I think the older generation of Villa fans are always the hardest to impress. I always find they're the most critical, and they're very, very dismissive of players after a game or two. Whereas the younger ones will do want to. Although some fanboy players, like they just follow him now, no matter what. Other players will just give him a chance. Like with Wesley, I was always going to happy to give him a chance this year, and not slaughter him as much as people have been slaughtering him. But Douglas Luiz, again, I think he loves Aston Villa now because of the way he performed. And when you saw when he scores a goal, whenever you see him score a goal, or any of us, or we score a goal as Villa, he's going absolutely insane. He loves it. So again, I'd want to tie him down because he's a big asset now as well. I don't know whether we'd be able to right now, would we? Because of I'm not sure how it works with the Manchester City agreement. Because what we could have potentially done because with the contract, that wouldn't be through his contract, would it? It'd be through through the deal with Man City. Of course, yeah. So I was going to say, so yeah, we should, if we could get it done, I'd like to get it done. But again, I mean, he only signed last year, so I mean, I think we signed him to a 4 or 5 year deal.
Contract,
yeah. So he's got a while left. Yeah.
What these contracts will mean, there will be a statement more than actual length. I think there'll be an extra 2 years. It won't be an extra 4 years. It'll be more.
It'll just make a point. We're not selling them.
We're back in the Premier League. We want to be competing in the top half of the Premier League. These players will help us do that, and that's why they're signing new contracts rather than actually extending their contracts longer because they already have quite a few years left on the contract.
No, I agree. I think you're right actually with what you're saying. I was looking at it more of a sense of tying them down so other clubs can't come in. But yeah, you're right. It'll make a point that these are our players. We're not selling club anymore because, like I say before, Barry, Milner, Ashley Young, Downing. It just goes on. The list you could go on for a while with the players that we have sold. If we were to tie them down, it would make a statement that that's not us anymore, wouldn't it? So yeah, I agree.
Going on to Mings. For me, he's our best centre back. Others disagree. Others say Konsa. I think saying Konsa's better than Mings is more of a hipster's opinion. What do you think about
that? I think Mings has demonstrated it over. People have very short memories in football. I mean, last year when he came in on loan, was it in January, I believe? Was it in January he came in? So when he first came in on loan, when we were in the Championship, and he absolutely revolutionised our defence. We were absolutely awful at the back, and everyone has probably forgotten about that now. But we were conceding goals left, right, and centre. And he came in and solidified that back four. He then went into the Premier League, and for the first, again, he's one of those that does make silly mistakes. He tries to, because he's so calm on the ball. He seems like he's like almost falling asleep sometimes when he's got it. He's that laid back. And he's in and I think that sometimes that gets him caught, especially against sharper players and more intelligent players. And I think that's what catches the eye, especially with people who perhaps don't follow Villa as hard as perhaps me and you do, where we watch it every game, every minute, every second of it we want to see. If you just watch, say, maybe the highlights, or you watch it on Match of the Day, you'd see that, and you'd not see the other 20 clearances or the other readings of the game that he does. So I think it's a slightly not a slightly ignorant view, not in a nasty way, just in the sense of I think a concert again, a class for when he come back after lockdown, but he's got a lot to prove still. Again, he's under the right tutorage. He's got John Terry, who's obviously world-class Champions League winning centre half and Premier League winning and everything else that he won. He's got him tutoring him. And he's got Mings obviously alongside him, who's again, Mings is an old lad. Mings is still fairly young. He's not old by any means. So I mean, those two could form a partnership for the next year or two. They're both quick, both strong. They're both modern day centre halves. They can both pass the ball. They can both receive it to feet. And I think as their understanding builds up, they'll both develop and make each other better. And especially that they're both left foot, right foot, both left side, right side. It's just perfect. I think I'd have me. I wouldn't want to pick out the two now because of how good Conte has been. So he hasn't put a foot wrong, really.
Yeah, Conte's been outstanding, but Conte's been very good for 10 games. He wasn't as good before lockdown, was he, Conte?
No. I mean, in fairness to him, he was in and out of the stock because we didn't have a clue what our best back four was. He was changing it sort of regularly, especially because we picked up a couple of injuries as well, and we had to have Conte right back. And I think even at right back though, he was very good. I remember him; he whipped 2 balls in this one game from deep, and he absolutely put it across the box like it was David Beckham. And I thought, well, Jesus, who was that? And I looked down and I saw it was Conte, and I was like, I didn't know he could do that. But what you mean is he's got that in his locker. He's a proper footballer, and I think he's going to be one of the best signings we've made in years. Quietly, he's going to quietly develop and be one of those players. In 3 years, he's going to be the main man. And I think he's got a huge future. I really, really do.
Yeah, I agree. I really rate Conte as a player. All I'm saying is, don't join the hype train too early. He's done it for 10 games. What I want to see is, can he do it next season?
Yeah, no, I'd reserve judgment. Like I say, it's nice to give him the praise because he deserves it. Because him and Mings, in my opinion, pretty much single-handedly kept us up. In regards to the defending, they were absolutely like top class in defence. I mean, Reina was decent, but I mean he made a couple of mistakes really near the last few games. And I mean the fact that them two were definitely our best players coming back after lockdown. I think it bodes well for next year, and I think that probably changed because I think perhaps coming into this year near the end of lockdown, they would have been thinking, oh, maybe if we stay up, we need a new centre half. And I think Conte's and Mings' performances since then have maybe changed that, and we haven't seen us linked with any centre halves at all. And I think that's a fair reflection of how they've played recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So we've got one final thing to cover, and that is our youth academy, how it's improved, and what Villa could look like in 5 years if these players come through how we think they will.
Yeah, that sounds. I mean, it looks promising, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It looks like we've got it. I was lucky when I first growing up. It was just at the start of O'Neill, so there was coming through. There was Gary Cahill, Stephen Davis. They had Gabby Agbonlahor, of course. And I mean, even Luke Moore for a few seasons was really good. He played a few good years for us on the wing under Martin O'Neill. But seeing those come up, and then through the years, over the last few years, apart from Grealish, perhaps, I can't think of a great deal more that have come up and been class. I mean, there's a few that were sort of touted to be it, like I think Hogg, an Australian guy. I'm not entirely sure where he plays now at all, but he was supposedly, so he was supposedly supposed to be a really like in our team, and he was going to be the next big thing, and he's just disappeared. And I think they're right in what do you think about the philosophy of if you're over sort of 21-ish, 20-ish, and you're still in the under 21s, you're not good enough? Do you believe? Do you agree with what they're saying, or?
Yeah, I think the case for that is Conor Maher. I think he's the one you look at. He's 22 years old. We didn't see him part of our first team, so off you go to Coventry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and and he's just but they've done it with. I mean, Russian Hepburn Murphy again was throughout the years when I was sort of looking, because I used to watch whenever the youth team used to be on YouTube. When it used to be on YouTube, I used to watch it all the time, and I used to do the sort of live commentating on it just because people were quite interested. So I started when we were watching that. He looked like next level. I mean, he was really good. I mean, he was playing against players who were like the Premier League that were just coming back from injury and things.
Yeah.
And he looked class, but again, he's gone to a club in Cyprus.
He scored I think he scored like 5-6 goals. I saw.
On his debut.
Goals on his debut, wasn't it?
I'm sure it was something silly like that. But yeah, it was like for some reason I've got 9 in my head. I'm not sure whether they won 9 and he scored 6, or he scored 9 and they won 12. I think for some reason he scored 9 and they won 12. Yeah. It's like Sunday League equivalent, isn't it? It's rubbish. But what I'm saying is when you're looking through those sort of players, and then you look at the players that we've replaced him. So if you say like for like, if you do Louis Barry, who's come in, so we bought a player who was signed from West Brom to Barcelona, and we've actually gone and had the what's the word, the so the ambition to go, the ambition to go and say, right, I know you're playing at Barcelona, but come to us and sign a player of that quality. And like I say, he's lit up the England youth teams. He's lit up our youth team. He can't stop. Every time I watch him and he's played, he scored. So again, when we were sort of, I was a bit upset when sort of Cal O'Hare went, because I thought he was going to be a class player for us. I thought he was Jack Grealish version 2. I thought that's the type of player that he was going to be. But when you see the players that they are replacing him with, you've got to take your hat off and say, well, they've let him go, brought in someone who's 16 or 17 and could potentially be the next big thing in Europe. A lot of them are. I mean, Shaq Poke is another one we're being linked with.
Yeah,
and he's been
signed, I think now. He put something.
Did he?
On Instagram.
I saw that. He was in Birmingham, wasn't he? Yeah, they all do that now, don't they? They all love putting that. But I mean, the players that we brought in, you can't knock them. And the fact that we brought in Mark Harrison, who's again he was brought in last year for the academy. He was taken away from West Brom. He's got a massive reputation. And he's come out and said about the club, he's never worked with a club that's been so forthcoming with it and wanted to support the academy as much as they have. He's been a superb acquisition, and I can see him being behind a lot of these signings. But I think Langer could be behind a couple of them as well, especially the more foreign ones. Especially if he's had because I mean he was still working for Copenhagen last year. So if he's got links where he was going to maybe look at for Copenhagen, perhaps we might have see them at Villa instead. But I think it's exciting times for our academy. Wouldn't you think? Wouldn't you say?
What I have in front of me, I took it from Twitter. The person on Twitter I took it from is called Douglas Louise, and it's basically a team of Villa under 21s, and it's a first 11 for our under 21 team. And I'll read it out to you.
Right.
It's in goal. We have Sinisalo. We're playing a 3 at the back. The 3 centre backs are Dominic Revan, Mungo Bridge, Twinkles.
Yeah.
At right wing back, we have Ken Kessler, Ben Christen, and Kenny Chukwuemeka in centre midfield. Aaron Ramsey at central attacking midfield. Bidence on
Yeah.
the left. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Or Bidence on the
Right.
left. And then up
Yeah.
front we have Shaq
Yeah.
Pope and Louis Barry with obviously Ramsey in behind. That's that 11.
Yeah. That is top youth side. And I mean, even there, we're missing Vasilev, even on
Yeah.
the bench. And
Mhm.
Vasilev's I thought he was a very good player. When I saw him, the little brief spells he was on we saw him in the Premier League and in other games when we were short.
Yeah.
I thought he was very good. He held the ball really well, and he looked like a footballer. He looked like he had a football brain. He
Yeah.
didn't look out of his depth.
I think
So
Vasilev
again,
will
he's
take
another
that
one.
loan. I think he'll
Yeah,
go on
that
loan,
actually,
Vasilev.
yeah, good point. Actually, that'd be probably the best place for him. Sort of a championship where a club where he's gonna play every game would be perfect for him.
Yeah, I see that 11 there as our future.
Yeah,
All of
yeah,
those
yeah.
players will be in the first team. They will be
It's
doing
something.
what Southampton have done, where they develop players, they bring them through to the first team, sell them off
Yeah,
for 40 million, rebuild. However, we
yeah,
may not have to sell them off, which is a good
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
They can be in
yeah.
our first team for the next 5, 10 years, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, and they are, and if you look through, and I mean, a lot of people who are listening and people who are Villa fans in general won't know a lot of them. The couple of them I have seen, especially the ones that have been there before, Revan,
Yeah,
Mungo Bridge, the keeper Sinisalo.
yeah,
I've seen those before. They're all top class youngsters.
yeah,
The reason they've kept them on is because they are top class.
yeah,
Like I say, they've been very cutthroat about, especially with youngsters as well. I mean, there was that, I think it was Hale, who'd been at our club for years,
yeah,
under 23 captain, and he just left and then ended up at Cork City.
yeah.
And you look at that and you think, but were they right to let him go? And then he ends up at Cork City, and you think, well, yeah, they probably were.
Obviously,
The
yeah,
only one, the only one I was maybe a little bit upset about mostly was Mitch Clark. I thought
yeah,
he has the potential to be a very good player. Um, but yeah, again, we don't see him on a day to day, so we don't know what
yeah. Well, Mitch
the
Clark, as an
coaches see.
example, he's ended up at
Might bite your
Leicester.
tongue and sort of think maybe they know better.
Yeah,
Yeah, he got signed by Leicester and he snapped up straight away by Leicester. I
yeah,
mean, within a few days. I remember him putting it because all the Villa fans were all messaging him saying, "I wish you hadn't have gone." But
yeah.
yeah, it's one of them.
But then we
But
have Kane Kesler. He can also play fullback either side, don't we?
yeah, and
Maybe
I
we
get
see him as being better than
better than
what was
what he is,
Neto.
and yeah, he's probably a little bit older as well, isn't he? Probably getting on a little bit
Yeah.
more than
Kane Kesler is about
yeah,
17, 18, I think. Recently signed a new
yeah,
professional contract with the club. I see him as being our right back for the next 10 years.
yeah. You've just got to give. The thing is now, like we see with these other clubs, you need to get maybe have another year on with us, see what they're like. If they are good enough to go into the first team, you don't need the loan spell. But I think the loan spell is always good to judge a player on because, like I say, people with you look at, I know it's slightly different, but Tammy Abraham, when he
Yeah,
came to us, no one really rated him as well. People did rate him, but they were always, is he good enough? Is he good enough? And when he
yeah,
came to us, he demonstrated it, went back, and then he was Chelsea's first team striker for 6 months or whatever it was before Giroud took over him.
yeah,
So I think the loan spell would help him gradually, but if they are good enough, I'm under the same belief. You throw them in, especially in the Carling Cup games. I mean, you've got nothing to. You've got just throw them in because I mean, if you're playing 9 first teamers and you throw 2 youth team players in,
yeah,
and the team can't cope, then you've got bigger problems than those 2 players or the team. There'll be a
yeah,
bigger issue somewhere. Yeah, so I mean, especially if they're at that level, they're gonna be. There's not much they could really do wrong unless they go and kick it in their own net. Even if they
yeah,
have a bad game, you just bring them off and then just tell them, look, you maybe not ready. Just give them a year in the youth team or whatever.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm all for giving players a chance because the players that we have given a chance, Stephen Davis, Gabriel Bonlahor,
yeah,
Gary Cahill came through, and we ended up. I mean, Cahill we ended up selling for like pittance what we could have got for him, but
yeah. And he
they all
wins
came through and we sold them for good money. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting times for it to be a Villa fan.
Yeah, I think those players can see us through for the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah,
And it's basically the Chelsea Man City model, isn't it? Well,
yeah,
more so
yeah,
the Chelsea model of bringing
yeah,
players for youth, loaning them out. When they're ready for first team, bring them in.
Yeah, bring them in. Or even if they are getting ready to first team and they're not quite what you want, or then you sell them on like well, it's a bad example, but De Bruyne they lent
Yeah,
to Wolfsburg and then sold him on,
yeah,
and then obviously that probably gives Abramovich and Chelsea fans nightmares. But it's one of those things. I think it's a good business model, and I think it's one that will work.
yeah. I think that pretty much wraps up the podcast, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's been a
yeah,
long
that sounds
one.
good.
It's
Yeah,
been
that's been a long
very
one. Yeah,
enjoyable,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I
I've
hope to have
enjoyed
you on
it.
again.
Yeah, no, yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed today. Thank you for having me on. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah, it's really good chat, to be honest. Really insightful.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, fantastic. I'd love to come back on it in the future.
Yeah, thank you. So,
Wicked.
thank you all
Thank
for
you.
listening as well. What did you say, sorry?
Nothing. I was just thanking them all as well. Yeah, just
Yeah,
thank you for listening,
the
and yeah,
listeners,
thank you
yeah.
for having me on.
Hope everyone enjoyed the podcast and enjoy the rest of the day if you're watching this. Thank you.